If it involves exposure of your genitalia, it should be dictated by anatomy. If it does not,
Where is this happening, Dennis?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, I don't ever see any genitalia in bathrooms in general. You know, like, what is the
Well, weird. Me too. Weird. Because, you know, I just go in there and piss and then leave. And that's the extent of it. I'm not sitting there being like, just need to make sure no one's exposing themselves under the stalls. Nothing, no exposure. Really wish someone would kind of expose themselves so I could catch them in the act of exposing themselves.
Today we're going to be speaking for the first time, maybe not the last time, we'll see how it goes, with Dennis Prager. Many of you may know him from PragerU, from his radio program. He had a conversation not too long ago with our friend Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks. Dennis, welcome. It's great to speak to you today.
well, thank you for having me.
Just to start, and this can be so quick and then we move on, just as a sort of sanity check, I've started to ask guests in this year, last year, the following question. Is there any way to accurately say that Donald Trump won the 2020 election? Just a simple answer if there is one, and if not, it's fine for you to explain further.
So I have a relatively simple answer, and I've given it from the election date to this day.
Yes, sir.
I am agnostic, which has satisfied neither the left nor the right.
Okay.
My colleagues on the right want me to say it was stolen, and people on the left want me to say we are certain it wasn't stolen.
Well, and half of the right also wants you to say that, right?
Half of the right wants me to, I wouldn't say half. I would say most people on the right believe it was stolen or that there was a good chance it was.
Wow.
I don't know what that gains us, but it's fair that you ask. See, it's funny. You regard that as a sanity check.
I do.
So, okay, so let me offer my sanity check.
Please.
Do you believe that men who say they're women...
So you still haven't answered the question. Someone's like, hey, there's two possible outcomes. Either an election was stolen, democracy in the United States has been upended, situation 2, or a rich man baby could not accept the loss. You know, just like a diaper baby, petulant man child, very on brand, by the way, and then he's claiming that he actually won when he lost something. So those are the two scenarios. What do you think? I'm agnostic. Yeah, agnostic. Not one way or the other.
And compete with women in women's sports.
I think in a lot of sports, that does not make sense.
So how do you...
Was that the answer you expected? Because you did a little bit of a look to the side there. Did you think I was going to...
I didn't look to the side because I took off my earphones.
Understood, sir.
I realized that I don't need them.
Okay. But this is a different topic, Dennis.
I'm sorry?
It's a different topic. Do we want to close on the election first?
Oh, well, you said you just wanted to ask that question for a sanity check.
Okay, and you're agnostic is the answer.
Yeah. So I am agnostic because so many things happened that were odd or unique. Like it was the first time that a president had ever, an incumbent president had ever gotten more votes than he did in his first election and lost. That all the swing states went in his favor. That 17 of the 18 counties that are considered bellwether counties went in his favor. Those who think something bad happened are not out of their minds.
Okay. I mean, we don't have to make this the subject of the conversation, but things sometimes happen for the first time. I guess the question I would ask as a follow-up would be, did you see compelling evidence from any one state that suggests that Joe Biden lost it even though he was given the win? Is there a single state where you feel confident it was stolen?
Georgia might be one of them. Pennsylvania might be one. And of course people say, because I love to have people I differ with on my show. And so I read the left. I only wish the left read the right as much as I read the left.
Well, I try to, but what evidence was there in Georgia?
You probably do. I think if you do, you're atypical. But in any event,
yeah. What's the Georgia evidence?
All the time that courts dismissed all these cases. That's true, but that's the tragedy. See, if I were an America-loving Democrat, and there are 11 America-loving Democrats, and there are America-hating Democrats, there are both. But there are America-loving Democrats. If I were one, I would say, please, let us air all of these complaints. Yeah. Let us have some type, as close as we can, to some neutral authority. Not rule on it. Just allow the American public to hear what evidence there might be. And I'll add another thing. If one believes, and I'd love you to respond to this.
Yeah.
If one believes that Donald Trump is a neo-Nazi fascist.
Something I've never said, but we could maybe find someone who believes that. Yeah.
Well, okay. I believe you haven't said it, but it's not germane to my
Okay.
argument. Whether
Cool.
you said it or not, it's said often that he is a fascist. Excuse me. That he is a fascist is constantly said on the left, and so if you believe that, aren't you morally bound to cheat on his behalf? For example, if I were in Germany in 1932 during the elections that brought Hitler to power,
This is the first time I've seen this line of logic. This one's new. I haven't seen anyone go here before.
tell you, I would have cheated on behalf of any other party than Hitler's party.
Yeah.
Aren't you morally bound to cheat if you believe the man is a fascist?
You'd have to ask someone who believes that. I don't know. I mean, I think, listen, we only have a half hour and we're 5 minutes
Yeah, so
in.
look, well, let's talk about
I guess it's similar to what like Adam and Sitch were trying to do with Sam Cedar when the two of them like were just like, well, I mean, if you call someone a fascist, you have to understand that like people may take up violence, so you are in a way encouraging violence. And he's like, I've never once encouraged violence. It's like, well, we're saying that is it not right to assume that if you are saying something like that, then people need to stop fascism no matter what the cause. So at that point, if they enact violence based on the fact that you told them someone was a fascist, and it's like you're making so many leaps here, you know? It's unusual to see it being played with any kind of like, is this a legitimate line of reasoning? Okay, you are going there, I guess.
What I would say is the audience can judge, is there evidence out of Georgia that's convincing to them? Is your answer to, did Trump win, logical to them in any way? Let's let the audience decide on this section of the conversation. Fair. I'm really interested in talking to you about woke, anti-woke, cultural issues, etc.
Okay.
Now, you and I could pick one thing, like cat litter boxes in bathrooms, or quote, men and women's sports, or drag shows, or whatever, and we could just talk about that for 25 minutes. But I want to zoom out a little bit because you've been in this for a while, and I've been following many of the things you've said about these issues. Here's my curiosity. If you look at polling, if you're going to just reject polling, then we'll talk about that. But let's assume that we have some polling that tells us something that is relatively close to what the country believes. Record support for same-sex marriage today. Record number of people saying, I'm moving away from religion. Highest in the Roe v. Wade era of the country says abortion should be legal in most cases. 60% says we haven't gone far enough on making trans people feel welcome. Okay, I could go on, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. Do you feel as though this is a lost cause and the country has clearly gone in a different direction from where you would like to see it? Or what do you think might happen that would turn around this 30, 40-year trend of moving to the left culturally that I believe we are seeing in the polls?
There's no question we're moving to the left culturally.
To the left.
The first thing people have to do is recognize reality. You may or may not be happy with it. Just parenthetically, I just did an hour of radio because I do a lot of hours that are not politics, and
Sure.
and it was about the subject because I'm writing a commentary on the Bible, and I'm finishing volume 4, in which I discuss on one verse: is there luck in life, or is everything God's will? I'm a deep believer in God, and of course I believe there's bad luck because that's reality. If you get a kidney stone, and I use that example, I don't believe God placed the kidney stone in your kidney. I believe that it was your crappy luck that you got a kidney stone.
But let me just dig it, not to interrupt, but I want to make sure we know what you mean by luck. Do you mean by, let's imagine the prevalence of kidney stones is 2%, just for hypothetical.
It's basically that like God is all powerful. He's overseeing all things. I'm using he because that's the God that Prager believes in, Yahweh. So God is all powerful, but just doesn't have, you know, the patience to deal with the minutia, the day to day of just giving people the kidney stones. So there's a lot of things that are just kind of like set in motion. And then every now and then, you know, God will take it upon himself to supersede and then just be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to stop this thing because I'm all powerful and I can do that. When it's the good thing that you like, when it's the bad things that you hate, that's not really me. Those kidney stones were just kind of like your luck. You know, maybe you shouldn't have, I don't know, drank so much, something to that effect.
For our conversation. God created a world in which there's a 2% prevalence of kidney stones. You had the bad luck to be in the 2%. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. That's
okay. Now, why did God create the kidney stones to begin with?
Because God did not create perfect nature. I mean, trees can fall, avalanches can happen.
Okay.
It is our task to fight cancer and
Oh, my apologies. Jewish people don't use Yahweh. They use to make the distinction. It's Hashem is fine, but otherwise you can just say God. My apologies. Hashem.
To be able to live with avalanches.
Got it.
I would. The human being wanted to leave the Garden of Eden. That's my take on the story. We rather live in a free universe than in a perfect universe.
Okay.
Okay. But I'm glad you went through theology with me. Anyway, the only reason I raised this is I am not happy to acknowledge the power of bad luck or good luck, but it is the reality. I am not happy that 45% of young Americans say, according to Pew, that they believe in free speech, but not for hate speech. It shows you how incoherent young people's thinking is, that they don't understand that the whole point of free speech is to allow speech that you can't stand. Okay, I'm a Jew. If you don't think the Holocaust happened, you're a liar, you are sick, you are perverted, but you are allowed to.
Ooh, you're not going to like Rumble then.
Say it. By the way, you're not allowed in most European countries. You can be imprisoned for denying the Holocaust.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm
also a lot of your contemporaries as well, but
a Jew as well, and I believe exactly what you just said.
I believe you.
Okay.
I had a feeling you would, but just know your side is as opposed to free speech, as more opposed than ever any segment of Americans has ever been. We are living through the greatest crisis of free speech in American history. That poll is an example. Here's another one.
Okay.
25% of Americans aged 40 and over have never been married, as opposed to 8% in 1980. We went from 8 to 25% in 40 years.
Can we talk about that one a little more? That one I find interesting. I'm not 40, but I'm in a long-term relationship. I have a baby. I'm not married. It's a conscious decision I've made, evaluating what is marriage in 2023. Is that the sort of contract I'm interested in? Do I need that to mediate my relationship with my girlfriend? Are there protections that I find necessary? I don't know that for me, and for so many other people I know that are probably in the group you're sort of describing here, I don't know that it's any kind of moral commentary or a commentary on the nature of relationships, but more about, for most of human history, this sort of contract didn't exist. There was a period where it peaked. I think it was the 50s or 60s or 70s. It seems to be in decline. It's sort of a blip. I don't know that it's that indicative of the broader point you're trying to make, Dennis.
It's funny you should say this. I went to a wedding last Sunday night, and my wife just spoke to the woman who got married.
Yeah.
And they had lived together for about 4 years. And she said, everything feels different. And I always explain to people, you use the word girlfriend. So you'll just have to take my word for it.
Please.
That you would be conveying a very different image of yourself and your relationship if you said my wife.
I agree.
Oh, okay.
I mean, yeah, you would know about that. Haven't you been married like 4 times? It's like been divorced 3 times? Or was it divorced twice, married 3 times? Either way.
I think that that is a worthy commitment that human beings should make. I would like you have a child, I believe.
Yes, indeed.
I'd like the child to believe mommy and daddy are husband and
3,
wife,
okay.
Not just boyfriend and girlfriend. It's better for the kid, better for you, and better for the world.
But why do you think then that this marriage
and why do you keep
thing
getting divorced?
Was the sort of more...
Is anyone ever going to ask him that? Because like every single time he's like, the only way that, you know, the family unit can be together is in the perfect bonds and sanctity of marriage under God's green eyes and like all this kind of stuff. And you're like, wait, what? And then it's like, but you keep getting divorced, bro. Like, bruh, how many times do you need to be divorced before you realize maybe this wasn't for you?
Prevalent status for such a tiny blip in human history, and now it's already diminishing.
Well, I mean, the Bible was written 3,000 years ago and everybody got married. I don't know why you call it a blip in history. It was...
Yeah, I don't know if everything we were doing back then are things we should be doing now. I don't think we should be stoning children to death. Don't think that's great. Don't think we should be owning slaves. Human beings as property, also not good, you know?
It's universal. People got married in virtually every civilization.
Well, so if we consider modern humanity 250,000 years, for most of time, humans were not getting married.
All right, look, if I can't talk about, you know, pre-Stone Age or pre-Bronze Age man.
Okay, fair.
Okay, since the Bronze Age, people have gotten married, and you know what? We've done better by every metric. Marriage makes a better person and a better world.
Yeah, what I see is commitment between...
Then again, why do you keep getting divorced? It's like, no, listen to the triple divorcee talk about how fucking marriage makes everything better.
2 parents and probably a fair amount of economic stability are really the ideal circumstances. But I think I don't want to get away from your broader point, Dennis, which I think is you're recognizing the reality of the situation.
And I'm fighting it.
And you're fighting it.
And I'm fighting it because I believe that graduating high school, getting a job, and getting married before you have a baby, that is almost the perfect recipe for a better life.
But going more broad on the other culture war issues I mentioned.
Then why do half of them end in divorce? Why? I have nothing against marriage, by the way. I have nothing against monogamy. I have nothing against having a partner you love. I happen to be in a long-term relationship with a partner who I absolutely adore. I love my life, all that kind of stuff. I just don't understand why this one-size-fits-all scenario. Like, why is it that, like, the thing you have to get is the marriage itself? That's what's important, the marriage. We could just lock you into that marriage. That's key. None of this is ever about, like, you really should find someone who you love and respect enough to be in a long-term relationship, because it is a lot of work. Like, it's a fuck ton of work in both directions for both members of a marriage or a relationship or partnership. That's a lot of fucking work. So why is it just the marriage itself? Like, that's a piece of paper you can get at London Drugs and then sign over an afternoon. You know, it's a legal document that is, yes, going to make a lot of things enforceable, and is going to change the way that you might have to deal with taxation and stuff like that. But, like, that's not the key. The key to it all, you know, is not just the marriage itself.
You're 75. You've been at this for a while. Don't you think that maybe it's simply being lost? Or let me ask it in a different way.
Yeah, it's a legal
what
contract.
Catalyst
It used to be about trading
happen
women's
that
property.
might turn this thing around so that the so-called kind of anti-woke side wins or resurges?
Well, it's a great question, and I don't have a perfect answer. I do think that the chaos of the trans movement, that people support the removal of girls' breasts when they're 18 or even sometimes younger, or boys getting castrated.
Every year in the United States, there is over 2,000 breast implants that are given to teenage girls. Yes, teenage girls, obviously with the consent of their parents, are getting breast implants. Never a fucking peep out of right-wingers over that shit. You know? Suddenly they're deeply, deeply concerned when it happens to be in the form of gender-affirming care. If someone's getting a mastectomy, it's like, oh, what? What? Someone got a mastectomy? Yeah, it was a cis girl. Her breasts were too large. She wanted a breast reduction. Oh, sorry, that one's fine. Yeah, that one's fine. Oh, okay, cool. So you're just fine with the procedure. You understand it's a medical procedure. We have a long documented history of doing it at this point. We know how to do it safely and effectively. You got no problem with it. Well, not if they're trans, because then they're taking things away from me, from you. What are they taking away? They're taking away the boobas. Look what they took from you. You know, I got lots of photos. Look at this. Look what they took from you. They took this from all of us. Look what we used to have, and now we don't. Oh, I think this is speaking a little bit more to what you want to see.
Because they say they're girls. This has alarmed a fair number of people, even on your side of the spectrum. They realize this is madness. We have gone out of our minds. And I know why we've gone out of our minds. I don't think you would agree with my analysis, but it is I could put it to you in one sentence. It is a quote attributed to G.K. Chesterton, but we can't verify he said it. I'm only saying that because I didn't come up with this.
Okay.
When people stop believing in God, they don't believe in nothing. They believe in anything. And this trans movement is the proof. I said on Bill Maher's show 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Right before you saw that, it's gone viral.
I saw it.
He said, oh,
it's
Trump
gone
lies.
viral.
It doesn't compare to the lies of the left. America is systemically racist and men menstruate. And he cracked up, the whole audience cracked up, and the whole panel cracked up. They were all laughing at me. And Bill Maher said, this is why it's gone viral. There are like 10 million views of this particular scene, where he says, Dennis, where'd you come up with that one? And that was 2019, the fall of 2019. And people go, what are you, nuts? Who says men menstruate? Within 2 years, if you denied men menstruate, you were considered transphobic.
Well, listen, I mean, I'm glad to have, I'm going to be honest. I don't know that this is the most interesting thing for us to talk about. But that being said, I have said very clearly, there are some areas, if we just say the world of trans issues, there are some areas where I feel quite confident. Like, for example, when it comes to bathrooms, I was just in Spain. Beautiful country, terrific seafood. I recommend it to you, Dennis. The bathrooms are just gender neutral. There's a sink there and a bunch of stalls, and people cross in the sink to wash their hands, and you use the stall you want. Everything's fine. The bathroom issue, I genuinely do not care about, even when they are organized the way they are in the United States. Another example that really just does not seem like an issue to me. People want to be addressed by a different pronoun. I'm going to guess based on what I see. And if I get it wrong, I'm not insulting anyone. If someone tells me otherwise, I'll kind of just do my best. You know, we can kind of negotiate these things. On some of this stuff, like a talking point I'm hearing a lot is so many trans people who go through gender affirming care regret it. And that's a sign that something is very wrong. When I research it, it seems it's under 1% that express regret. And for some of that 1%, it's temporary. So I'm ambiguous about what is the right thing to do in some of these areas. I'm open to hearing from you to the extent that I judge you to be a good faith participant in the conversation. I don't know the answer. With some sports, you know, it seems pretty clear that there is an advantage to being biologically male at birth. It seems unfair in those cases to arrange it in a certain way. In others, it doesn't seem to make much of a difference. So, I think that I'm very open-minded on this.
I'm just curious. It's not even a challenge.
Yeah.
Name me a sport where there is women.
Okay, so you see what happened there? Specifically, Dennis Prager is going to find the entry point. He's going to go through a whole bunch of things, and then he found the one. He's like, oh, wait, David Pakman is not 100% on board on this issue. He's done a little bit of research in the other. He's had a personal life experience in the other. So those two, he seems very confident, and that's not something he's really going to back down on. But here we go. Okay, fine. Which sport can you tell me in which it does not change? Which one?
Sports where it doesn't make a difference.
Chess?
Well, apparently it does, interestingly. I was just reading that the International Chess Federation, whatever the name of the group is, noted that men did play chess better, generally speaking. By the way, if you're right, and I have no agenda here.
Yeah.
How long have women been allowed to compete professionally within the realm of playing chess as a sport? How long? How long has the institution of chess been seen as something that should be male dominated, a game of men and their wits, you know, ever since its fucking medieval origins? I would take very candidly that if we're simply saying that this is a game that can be performed better because of male brain power, the cunning ability for men to make decisions. Women, they're just a little too occupied, you know? They're thinking about what dresses they want to wear and when's their next moon cycle coming along, and so they won't be able to make as quick decision-making. It's like just utterly and patently absurd. You're trying to establish that there's just an inherent difference that is to such a degree between the intelligence of both men and women and their ability to play a competitive game such that they have to be separated. That to me is, it's deeply sexist. You can tell me that, hey, by the way, because this is such a male-dominated sport and always has been, that women would like to have specific leagues in which they only can participate, and that's something that they want to do as a way of both feeling safer in the game itself and simply because they want to be able to compete within that. I have absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. But if you're telling me that there is just, a mathematical, demonstrable difference between the male mind and the female mind, and to such a degree in which we have to particularly isolate all women from playing all men and vice versa, where are we at?
There should not be women's chess.
Right. So this chess is an interesting one because
it exists suggests that there is an advantage to separating the sexes.
My understanding is, and again, I think we're both trying to learn here. My understanding is the reason that the women's chess division was originally created was not enough young girls were participating.
Okay, fair enough, but it's not a physical sport anyway, so it's not a sport.
No, I mean, listen, I don't know.
So that you, all right, no, but you said where it doesn't matter. But if it doesn't matter, there would be no reason for women's whatever it is, track, field, weightlifting, tennis. But apparently there is a difference. A male who said he's a female won in Canada 2 weeks ago, and he not only set records in the women's division, and I am saying he because I think he's a fraud and a narcissist for hurting women like this. He lifted 250 pounds more than the first.
I was like, I bet you it's because there's very low participation by women. I'm like trying to look it up right now, and one of the first stories that pops up is this. It is not biology. Women's chess hindered by low numbers and sexism. What? The governing body is pushing to make more welcoming to women, but is the change happening fast enough? Towards the end of The Queen's Gambit, the Netflix show that helps supercharge the new chess boom, Beth Harmon crushes a series of top male grandmasters before beating Vasily Borgov, the Russian world champion. Fiction, though, remains sharply separated from fact. As Magnus Carlsen was reminded before starting his world title defense in Dubai last week, there's not a single active women's player in the top 100. Now that Hu Yifan of China, who's ranked 83rd, is focusing on academia. The lingering question, why? For Carlsen, the subject is way too complicated to answer in a few sentences, but suggested a number of reasons, particularly cultural, were to blame. Some, though, still believe it's down to biology. As recently as 2015, Nigel Short, vice president of the World Chess Federation, claimed men are hardwired to be better chess players than women, adding, you have to gracefully accept that. The claim raises the eyebrows of the greatest female chess player, Judith Polgar, who is ranked as high as number 8th in the world and, amusingly, has a winning record against Short. It is not down to biology, she tells The Guardian. It's just as possible for a woman to become the best as any guy, but there's so many difficulties and social boundaries for women, generally in society, that is what blocks it. Bulgaria defeated 11 current or former world champions in either rapid or classical chess, including Garry Kasparov and Magnus Carlsen, before retiring in 2014, believes that that's an early start, encouraging girls to think big and better teaching on crucial factors. All champions and big players start to play chess and get familiar with the game at a pretty early age. The development biologist Emma Hilton also dismisses the idea that the gap between men and women can be put down to genetics. A crucial point, she says, is that chess has an extremely skewed starting pool, with far more boys learning to play the game than girls. She states it makes it extremely unlikely that we will see a female world champion. The English international master Johanna Huska believes that this smaller pool has a knockoff effect in other areas, particularly when it comes to being the only girl or only one or two girls in a group. We have situations where the girls don't feel very comfortable playing, whilst the boys can hang around, make friends, and play amongst themselves and get better that way. Is sexism a factor? It is, sadly, says Huska. It's mainly because there's so few women playing. It's reinforced by national federations who don't publicize your achievements to help you with funding. When I took the situation across Europe, I could see a lot of top women players fighting in their federation for basic things. There's also a far darker side in all this. Last year, the women's FIDE master, Alexandra Botez, who is also the most popular female chess streamer, spoke of her shocking experiences in the sport and warned, in chess, so much predatory behavior has been normalized. In Botez's view, it is far too common for men to use their age and position to go on the hunt for women and girls. It also has been going on for so long and no one blinks an eye. The extent to which people never say anything and find things okay is pretty spooky. Yet, there are encouraging signs too. As Suska points out, it is far more common to see women chess players, commentators than only a few years ago. It's very important to have visibility, because if girls have role models, they can adjust to the expectations and aims. The FIDE president, Akradi Dukovic, also promises she is pushing hard to make the game more welcoming for women. He rattles off a list of changes he's made during his tenure, including more tournaments and increased prize money for women. Like, it seems to be exactly kind of what I assumed, is that this is an incredibly reinforced boys club from the ground on up. Not so much that there's this big, biologically determined genetic difference that justifies it. It's that, like, in the majority of people who are cultivating in the sport from the ground on up, if they're majority boys, well then yes, it's not a very welcoming environment for women to thrive in, let alone want to compete in a lifelong career that is becoming a professional, athlete in any single endeavor.
Place woman.
Right.
I know you don't think that's fair,
no.
But on your side, the entire LGBTQ movement is unanimous in saying you're transphobic if you think that is wrong.
So, I mean, listen, a couple of examples. Equestrian, right? I mean, it's physical. You're riding a horse. A lot of it has to do with the horse. If biological men who tend to be heavier want to compete against women, it doesn't seem like a major problem.
By the way, we all need to stop ceding ground to fucking the far right when discussing anything with them by using all of their terms and then just accepting, like, okay, fine, you'd like to use this biological males competing against, like, everyone is fucking biological. Why do you say this shit? We're all based in biology. You can use the actual real terms that are at this point pretty unanimously used amongst the entirety of the medical community. Start establishing and teaching people what it is to be cis, what it is to be trans. It's not like, well, these are just like, buzzwords. That are like, this is what, the very doctors who deal with gender affirming care, this is the terminology that they will use.
Sailing is physical. You have to dominate the sail as you are being pushed around by wind. Bowling, I believe, is gender segregated. I don't know that it needs to be. I mean, darts is another example. I mean, these are just some examples.
Right. So wherever it made a difference, you'd be opposed to it. So you are transphobic according to your side.
Okay.
Please understand that.
Well, but I think the point that I'm trying to...
And also, like, I don't know why you have to establish this whole thing as, like, in the best of faith. Like, you are going extreme good faith in here, David. You're not getting it in return. Look what just happened. That was, like, that's very underhanded, right? That's very petty. Just to be like, well, yeah, by the insanity of your own size, you're now a transphobe, just so you know that. I was just like, well, this is not a person having a discussion in good faith looking to meet you in the middle ground somewhere.
Make to you is that there are many people on my side that are taking my view and sort of trying to figure out something that is admittedly not completely figured out yet. It seems incorrect to cast us as...
It's figured out in most cases. I mean, it's figured out.
Absolutely. I'll agree there. Hey, by the way, the Olympic Committee has been dealing with this for a long time, well before it became the centerpiece of the fucking culture wars, and based on their own assessment, which, hey, they know a lot more than I do, they find that after a certain amount of use of HRT and other factors, that it is acceptable for people who are trans to compete within the gender competitions of their chosen right? This is them identifying the way they want to. Like this is not something where every single time it's like, well, yeah, we just don't know. You know, no one knows about this. It's like, well, then why don't we defer to the Olympic Committee then? You know, why don't we refer to, again, people who have a lot more knowledge about this than me? I'm not Mr. Sportsman. I don't have a breadth of understanding when it comes to, you know, the sports science and all that kind of stuff. But it seems that people who do seem to think that there are, again, such definitive changes that happen physically to people when they undergo HRT for a prolonged period of time that it reduces that unfair and uncompetitive advantage. And still, we have a grand total of 0 trans women who have won an Olympic gold medal. And goddamn, if that ever does happen, you know that there's going to be this fucking massive "we told you so, we told you so, we told you so, look at this. As soon as we allow trans women to compete, this happens."
For racing, for track, for weightlifting, for tennis.
Yeah.
It's pretty universally. I don't like it. And as I said, if there's no difference whatsoever, it is silly to have men's and women's sports to
Fair,
begin
yeah.
with.
And so you just listed a couple examples. I gave you 5. Fine. Sports is one aspect of this. Where are you on something like bathrooms, for example, and bathroom usage? Do you want like a genitalia check, or what are you looking for?
I think that an elementary school, for example, where a boy says I'm a girl,
Yep.
and would be exposed in front of the girls as they are in the case now of college swim meets, where if a guy says,
I don't know how much time Dennis Prager spends in elementary school washrooms, but if I was to recall, when I was a lad and went to the bathroom in an elementary school, I was not exposing myself. I was going there to go to the bathroom and then leaving. That was the extent of it. It's kind of unusual that you think there's some kind of, I don't know, performance getting done.
he's a girl, Leah Thomas exposed his penis to the girls on the Penn
But Dennis, I hate to interrupt. You first said kids. In
Yeah,
college,
I
they're
know.
adults, right? So which are you talking about?
Right, both.
Oh.
So I'll start. I'm just giving you an example of where it does occur.
Okay.
Uh,
With adults.
I think that here, your anatomy should dictate in elementary school which bathroom you go to.
In elementary school.
Ideally,
Okay.
by the way, I have no problem if when there is a unisex bathroom with one stall, anybody goes in.
Yeah.
That's I have on occasion where there is one stall, I have gone into
Thanks, TMI.
the women's bathroom if I really had to go to a restaurant.
Wait, sorry. Did you just say you've used the women's bathroom? No way. Okay, rewind this.
When there is a unisex bathroom with one stall, anybody goes in.
Yeah.
That's I have on occasion where there is one stall, I have gone into the women's bathroom if I really had to go to a restaurant.
Wow, Dennis Prager, just now, live in 4K, admits to using the wrong bathroom for his gender. Amazing. Look how fast it was, because you really had to go, right? Dennis really had to go, and hey, it's just had to get it done. Had to get it done. Yeah, rules be damned.
And it was a little nothing thing with just one toilet.
Sure.
So I recommended to women to go into the men's because if my table was near the bathroom. So
Very gentle.
Whoa, he goes one step further and then tries to tell women to go to the men's bathroom. Look at this.
I'm sorry.
No, I said that's very genteel of you. I'm sure the
Well,
women
it's not
appreciate it.
genteel, it's just common sense. I'm a big believer in common
Just
sense.
But so
common sense.
elementary school,
Yeah.
it's a
But
genitalia
yes,
check.
your anatomy should dictate which bathroom you go to in elementary school. Yes.
Okay. And then in any other scenario, should it also?
So if it involves exposure of your genitalia, it should be dictated by anatomy. If it does not,
Where is this happening, Dennis? I pretty much think you should not be using public washrooms at all if that's what you're going in there to do. If you're going in there to expose your genitalia to people, kind of feels like you're just a flasher. You know? Someone who's doing a little fucking sexual assault. Yeah, that kind of feels like what you're trying to do in there. People go to the bathroom to go to the bathroom. Pretty sure everyone involved would want less people involved in that decision making, by the way, especially weirdos who are like, I tell all the women to go into the men's bathroom, I tell all the men to go to the women's bathroom, you know, it doesn't matter for us. But when it happens to be trans people, we have to make sure they're not in any bathrooms at all. Keep them out of there. They could do weird things.
not involve exposure of your genitalia. Look, as I say this tongue in cheek, but it's true.
It's a women's
If
bathroom.
a man exposes himself to women or a woman, and she has not asked to see it, he's arrested.
Mm.
But where if he says I'm a woman, then she could be arrested if she complains.
What?
It's a little weird, our situation.
No,
Why
that's
can't decent people
what?
just say, look, women...
I mean, I agree with you. This is really fucking weird, but this is not the case. Where are you getting this, Dennis?
are not aching to see most men's penises.
Mm.
Therefore, if I say I'm a woman, I will not expose myself in front of women, even though I think I'm a woman. Why can't I?
So, by the way, this is the same dude who is fucking on camera talking about how he thinks that men would essentially be rape monsters if it wasn't for the Bible, right? He's got the weirdest, most fucked up view of the world where he thinks like basically the Bible is what's keeping the majority of the populace under control, especially men. Like, you know, pure misandry. Like, that's not what every fucking man is keeping them at bay, you know? I mean, you can just look at the rates of religion plummeting and know that that's not the only thing that stopped rapes from happening. Rapes still do fucking occur. But holy fuck, now it's just like, well, yeah, if I was to expose myself in public, obviously people would arrest me, but apparently it's totally fine, and I've tested this multiple times by going into opposite bathrooms, that if I just pull my penis out and expose it to a bunch of people in the bathroom, well, then apparently that one's fine. And then they can go to jail if they say that I'm not doing something right, because they're transphobic, and they go to jail for their transphobia. Real things that happen.
Why can't someone be that decent?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, I don't ever see any genitalia in bathrooms in general. You know, like, what is the
Well, weird. Me too. Weird. Because, you know, I just go in there and piss and then leave. That's the extent of it. I'm not sitting there being like, just need to make sure no one's exposing themselves under the stalls. Nothing, no exposure. Really wish someone would kind of expose themselves so I could catch them in the act of exposing themselves.
Right. Okay, that's fine. Oh, yes, I understand that.
So that's not a problem for you, then?
Theoretically, a man says he's a woman and he enters a stall and nobody sees anything, then why would anybody complain?
Yeah, listen, that sounds reasonable to me. That sounds eminently reasonable, what you're saying. We can talk about these other scenarios.
The battle is way, way higher.
Yeah.
The battle is what we call so-called gender care. The removal, by the way, the 2% or under 1%, whatever you said, of detransitioners.
Yeah.
I believe it's as close to a pure lie. You're not telling it. I know you read it. I read it too. There's no doubt in my mind it's a lie.
It's unfortunately not. What he's referencing is a meta-study, aka a collection of studies internationally. So a whole bunch of different countries looked at this topic. They interviewed thousands upon thousands upon thousands of trans people, and then tracked the course of their transitioning to find out whether or not they in fact did regret it. And the meta-study concluded conclusively that it was less than 1%. Of those who do detransition, they found the reason most commonly cited was social stigma. Yeah. So... sorry, facts don't care about your feelings, you weird bathroom exposer.
There's a lot of lying on a lot of these issues because people feel if they have a humane agenda, they don't have to tell the truth.
Well, no, listen, I mean,
I have proof for this. Virtually every European country has stopped this care for minors. It has ended. England has ended it, Sweden has ended it, Denmark has ended it, Norway has ended it, and that's only the ones I know by heart.
So here's my concern about this.
We and Canada, I really apologize.
No, that's okay.
We and Canada are the worst countries on...
Wait, in Canada? Is Dennis Prager Canadian? Does he operate out of Canada? This is the first I've learned of this. Holy shit. Or is he just in Canada at the time? No, he's American. Yeah, you don't get to blame this one on us. An American conservative radio talk show host. Yeah, no. He's American. He's American. Calm down. He was born in America. Yeah, born in New York City. Oh, God. He said we and Canada. We and Canada. My apologies. My apologies. I got excited.
Earth, in terms of what we can do to minors if they say that they are the other sex.
I don't have that data in front of me, but let's just assume it's not even germane to the next part I want to go with this. Here's my thought on this. I also am not 100% on some elements of this type of care for minors. I still am learning more and doing my research. One of the problems I'm having with some of the claims that are made by those who I would colloquially say are on your side, I know not everybody agrees on everything, is that when I research some of their claims, they are lies. Like, for example, this is super specific. This guy, Matt Walsh, went on Joe Rogan's podcast and said that prepubescent girls are getting their breasts chopped off. Now, let's put aside for a second that prepubescent girls essentially don't have breasts. Let's put that biological reality aside for a second. And when Joe said how many, he said, oh, it's like millions or something. It was like 900 people over the last 6 years or something like that. When I see such blatant distortions about what is happening, it's hard to believe that these folks are operating in good faith.
I have no comment except to say your point strikes me as rather valid. How could a prepubescent girl have her breasts removed when so few of them have breasts.
It sounds weird, yeah.
That is what puberty brings with it, menstruation and breasts. But
Yeah.
so I will actually ask Matt. I know everybody at Daily Wire.
Yeah.
I
Of
will
course
ask
you
him
do.
because it's hard to imagine that he
Yeah.
would have said that. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that you're.
Oh, I mean, goddamn! I wish he had the clip ready. He could show it to him. Yeah, he's caught in 4K. It's fucking glorious. Just Jamie's light shines upon him, the light of truth. Then he has to look up there and admit that he's lying, and then immediately pivots. By the way, he's caught in a lie. Knows he's caught in a lie. Joe Rogan calls him out, and then he's just like, "Media Matters is gonna have a field day with this one, right? Yeah, we hate Media Matters, lib cucks." Like, none of this matters to them. They know they're lying. They know none of this is based in reality, and that's the only way you can push fucking hardcore ideology. If you are a Christian fascist, a theological fascist, and then basically all of what you talk about is based in nonsense and fucking make-believe fairies and whimsical nonsense, well then yeah, obviously you're gonna have to occasionally be like, okay, well, yeah, it's not about the actual reality. I just really hate trans people. That's why I do what I do. That's the entire purpose behind this. That's the reason I have a show. That's the reason I make all these fucking diaper babies. It's not a diaper fetish. That's the reason we do all this shit. It's entirely, yeah, I'm ideologically driven.
You're acting in bad faith. A lot of things are misheard.
Yeah.
Or maybe he misspoke, but it
No, he got
shouldn't
caught.
be happening. If
He got
kid
readily
says
caught.
to a parent,
Balthazar.
I'm so ready for the GOP to deny Trump the nomination and for him to run third party just to spite them.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think Trump is their man. Trump's going to win, but I do appreciate the dono.
a 10-year-old, okay, let's take a 10. Let's take a 12. It doesn't matter. Mom, I'm not a boy. I'm a girl. Mom, I'm not a girl. I'm a boy.
Yep.
The reaction of a sane and decent society is, my darling, nature made you a boy. Or if they believe in God, God made you a boy. Or both, God and nature. You are not a girl. You are a boy. And we're going to get you help.
This is so creepy. So goddamn creepy. Yeah, I mean, if you ever want to see how it plays out in real time, this is it. This is Dennis Prager. Fucking, oh, wow, yeah, can I have an opinion on this? On a stranger's child? To tell them things?
Obviously, there are other things going on in your life, which is almost always the case in these kids' lives. And look, how do you explain the like 1,000%?
By the way, more often than not, when you actually talk to the parents of trans children, it's that the children were the ones telling the parents repeatedly, hey, something's wrong, something's up. Can you please, I just don't feel comfortable, being called a boy, all this kind of stuff. And then the parents are the ones who push back against it, being like, oh, you're confused, maybe you're gay, I don't know. And then they start visiting doctors, they get more information, and as time goes on, they recognize and learn, and then they realize, holy shit, once we do gender-affirming care in the form of affirming someone's gender, pronouns, names, maybe dressing differently. That's the extent of it. There is no medical interventions. But when we do that, holy shit, it has life-changing fucking effects. And then all of a sudden you'll get parents who even Fox News have to promote and put on there saying like, I'd rather have a living boy than a dead daughter. I'd rather have a living son than a dead daughter, because at the end of the day, I can see how they thrive. I can see how happy they are, that they're no longer on a daily basis. Like, again, I try to tell other cis folk to try and put yourself in that headspace, because if I was a little kid and everyone was telling me I was a girl all the time, it would really fucking hurt my mental health. Like, I would go through a lot of fucking extra anxiety, depression, whatever you want to call it, and distress, because people were constantly telling me, you're a girl, Lance, you're a girl, she, her, what's wrong with you? Put on the dress, oh my God, why are you cutting your hair short? You're a girl, you're a girl, you're a girl. But I'm not. This is so weird. Why is everyone telling me that? Why is everyone telling me all the time I'm a girl? I know I'm not a girl. This is so fucked up. And that's the reality for trans people. Except they have to go up against fucking assholes like this. You're confused.
Increase in trans kids in the last 5 years. It's a social phenomenon. This is not a medical phenomenon.
Well, I think that's sort of I have an answer for that, and it relates to the same question of where did all these gay people come from 15 years ago?
But gay people have not increased.
My understanding is that
they absolutely have. Yeah, I mean, they haven't increased. They were always there. But the amount of people who are reporting being gay absolutely has. Bisexual people as well, like myself. Yeah. Guess what? I'm a thriving example of that. I was not openly bisexual fucking in my 20s, for a very large part of my life. This is not something that shocks a lot of people to find out, where I'm like, yeah, I mean, maybe not bisexual in the sense that you think bisexual is, where it's just like, yeah, that means you're equally into men and women. It's like, that's not the case at all. I don't even know if there's a word for me, right? bisexual doesn't really kind of fit, you know, myself, but like, yeah, there's kind of like that 1 out of 10 where I'm like, I'm oddly attracted to the guy in this 1 out of 10 scenario. 9 times out of 10 though, it's usually women. You know, I'm very, very, very straight, mostly straight, you know, straight with some faults. We'll say that, you know, and yeah, maybe there's not a word for me. I couldn't say strictly bisexual in the same way that most people are bisexual, but hey, now that I have a lot more tools at my disposal in terms of being able to eloquate and explain things, I can talk about that. So yeah, add me to that new statistic. You know, I'll join the stats. I'll join that little curve that all of a sudden it's like more millennials and Gen Z than ever before are reporting being queer. This explosion could only be explained by one thing. Yes, the left-handed graph.
No,
Folks who say in surveys I am gay, it has increased. I don't have the data in front of me. I don't have the data in front of me. Okay.
Bisexuals have increased, and I have no doubt about that. But gay men,
I have no doubt about that,
have not increased. For gay men, it's a fixed. There's a certain percentage of males who will never be attracted to a female. It's sort of fixed in any given generation.
Okay. On the first point, it's interesting to me to hear you say, if a 10-year-old said that, hey, we're going to get you some help. It sounds like you're talking about therapy.
I would consider that bisexual. Well, it's just weird because the majority of bisexual people that I do encounter, it's usually people who are way more, especially men, like bisexual men that I've met, spoken to, friends, etc. Usually, typically the other bisexuals I've met, it's like we're not only equally, but sometimes more attracted to men than women, but we are also attracted to women occasionally, where it's like, oh, well, so for me, it's more kind of like a 90% to 10% ratio. But yeah, if it fits in the same box, then sure.
Every medical professional I've spoken to about this says the first line here
hey,
in
CR,
exploring this
glad I could help
is
out.
Therapy. So it does sound like you agree with the start of the path that has been established.
Yeah, but all of you can't even, I believe that there are therapists who could lose their license as a therapist if they say to a girl, I want to help you work out peace with the sex that you are.
I'm not aware of that. I
want
have
to
complete ignorance.
I want to work out peace.
I know lots of therapists. None of them have mentioned that that's a part of the protocol.
All right, ask all the therapists you know.
I will.
And not as a challenge.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious.
Can a therapist say to a 12-year-old, you, in fact, you're a girl, and I'm going to help you work through your acceptance of that?
Fair.
Can a therapist say that?
I'm going to find out.
Get in trouble. I'm
going to find out. My stepmom supervises 12 therapists, and I will find out what's going on, at least in one state. Dennis, I know you've got to run in that we're almost out of time. One just very last political thing. I'm curious.
Okay.
In 2016, you had said Trump was unfit to be a presidential candidate, let alone president. You've since, I've seen you endorse and defend many of his actions as president. What changed?
So I'm glad you mentioned that. So people should know he was my last choice among all the Republican candidates for the nomination.
Yeah.
But once he was nominated, I believe, and we can obviously do this in a part 2 if you'd like, I believe that it is very important for the left not to have power, because there's no example in history of the left, not liberals. I always make a distinction between left and liberal, where they have not suppressed dissent. This is my greatest fear is the suppression of free speech.
It's a good thing that ends the right's never done everything.
So if a Republican is nominated, I will support him. He turned out to be, in my opinion, a superb president. I'm not a fan of his.
Wow.
By the way, it's a big distinction. I wrote 25 years ago. It's in my book, printed in 1998. It's called Adultery in Politicians, an essay I wrote. I don't care if a politician committed adultery. I see no linkage between fidelity and being a good president or a good senator. I am quite consistent on dividing between the macro and the micro in a public figure. King David not only committed adultery, and he's a hero of the Bible. He not only committed adultery, he had the guy killed so he could sleep with his wife.
Okay.
And that's pretty bad.
That may or may not resonate with some in the audience. But so, in other words, you're still...
Oh, no, it's not a matter of resonate.
I mean, it'll resonate with someone who's a triple divorcee, I suppose.
I only make this point. No, my fight on this issue is not with the left. It's actually with many on the right who think that adultery disqualifies you from being a good leader. So I don't believe most people on the left think if you committed adultery, you can't be a good president.
No, I mean, I certainly don't believe that.
Right.
Yeah.
So ironically, it should resonate with your audience.
Hey, if you had your choice of everybody running on the Republican side right now, if you knew whoever you picked would be president, who would you pick?
DeSantis?
So I'm actually happy with a fair number of them, to be honest. I wish Larry Elder had been on the stage. I think the RNC cheated him, and that bothers me. I know Larry, if people heard him and saw him, they would be blown away at his erudition, knowledge, and brilliance. And,
didn't see that one
Larry
coming, but sure.
I would retire from my work.
Wow.
Okay.
I would just
But of
like
the
to-
ones that are running.
That is
and
kind
made
of
the debate
a
stage.
slight
Yeah,
benefit.
I don't have one single favorite.
Okay.
I really like virtually every one of them. I don't like Chris Christie.
Wow,
Other
that's the
than that,
one guy I think is sane.
I'm sure you do because
Yeah.
he hates Trump.
Hey, look, Dennis, I'm going to let you go, but one last thing, just because of who you are, I have to have you weigh in on this. When it comes to corned beef, do you go lean or do you tell them just give me the fat pieces as well?
Yes, actually, it's funny you should ask because I'm on a pretty rigid diet now, which doesn't allow for carbs, and they want me to have the fat.
Oh, do they?
Yes, fat is the government screwed up the Americans with their chart on having grains a lot and fat a little.
Uh-oh.
Fat is not bad for people. It's actually in many ways good for people.
Well,
So,
saturated
fair
fat,
question.
but
All right, so you go lean, I take it.
I just don't
Okay,
like
so
the
now-
texture.
All right, so I have one final word for you.
Please.
Okay, if you get married, I will attend your wedding.
A tender of
Oh my God! What is that a threat? He's never getting married now. Holy fuck, that's the scariest thing you could possibly be told. Especially like him looking right into the mic. I will be at your wedding. Like, oh God. Well, yeah, all right. Sorry. Better advice or better fucking inspiration to never fucking get married in my life. Holy shit, that's disgusting.
officiate.
I even officiate.
Okay, fair enough. All right, very good. Even though she's only half Jewish, I have to admit.
I will officiate.
You would still do it. Very good. All right. Dennis Prager allowing us to bridge the gap between left and right, at least on some issues.
Yeah, that's true.
I
He's
do
been
really
to
appreciate your
3.
time,
He
Dennis.
does have
Thank you.
experience.
Mutual, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel that stoked on this. I thought there was a couple decent moments. Otherwise, it felt more like an interview, right? It felt like an interview where David didn't really want to go too hard and was kind of playing things a little bit like, okay, well, I just want to do this in the best of faith, just so you don't think that I'm some kind of radical leftist or anything, which I am not. Which, yeah, I mean, David's a lib. He's pretty firm in his libbiness. I was hoping for a little bit more pushback, though. Don't cede ground to these fucking assholes. If Dennis Prager is trying to find the one thing in which he can basically enter the culture war, which one person's culture war is another person's civil fucking rights, right? If you're talking about the rights of trans people, and he's like, okay, well, if you're going to talk about the culture war, let's talk about the old trans thing. Should they play in sports? You agree with me, right? They shouldn't play in sports. I know we agree on this one at least, right? I mean, to be like, well, I don't fully know. I think there are some cases in which, yes, I can see there's a decided advantage for biological males. I was like, this is what they want. Now, boom, Dennis Prager is going to take that. Dave Rubin has, he's not working, but he has all these clips set up, and I'm sure he's got one where he's like, okay, I'm on vacation, but now here's David Pakman agreeing with me, and then it'll cut to like that clip, that kind of shit. Like it's to their benefit, to be honest. Yeah, I don't think it was a fantastic showing, but we did get the amazing moment, and one in which I'm very, very happy about, of Dennis Prager now on camera without provocation admitting that he has used a women's bathroom because of the convenience factor. So he, the very person who believes that you should have your genitals inspected to be inside a washroom, has actually broken his own rules, and he has been in a women's washroom. Even worse, he encouraged women to use a men's washroom. Yes, that he has admitted to being a bathroom pervert. Yep, I'm fine with saying that out loud. That is my assessment. I don't think he can sue me for that. I don't think there's any lawsuit here. So there you have it, Yeah. Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form. Available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. This show is produced by amazing people like you, and if you want to help us out, please consider donating over at patreon.com/theserfs. The show is made possible thanks to Amazing Fletch, Anna Loves Riley, Ariane McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Doug Cady, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Lamidia Panza, Matthew Scarborough, Multimondi, Omni, Peanut Butter Blondie, Political Pappy, Quiet 185, Rachel K, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Ruby K, Sir Nickus, Spinach Monster, Stellar Vision, Sebastian Demo, Tech Tink, Trevbot EXE, Words Greenwood, and not to mention all of the amazing and fabulous people you now see before you.